Online dating is a $1.3 billion industry with nearly 42 million Americans having tested the waters online over the past few years, and it can open the doors to some very awkward dates and hopefully finding love. I mean, that's what it's all about. But with online dating, safety comes first, and here right now is Abby Stokes, author of Is This Thing On? Now, for any age viewer, why do you think online dating is so popular?
Well, I think in many ways you think of it as a little bit safer than just hanging out at a bar hoping to meet somebody. So there's an efficiency factor with getting online because you get to sit there in your own time whenever you want to and kind of see what's out there, do a little window shopping.
And when it first started, kind of similar to social media, it was big for the younger generation, but now we've seen it evolve into the older generations.
They're actually
right?
the largest growing demographic, online dating. And I think it makes a lot of sense because they're not as apt to necessarily be going out socializing as much. So it's sort of good for them as well.
Do you have any recommendations for people on online dating? Because of course, you know, there are some creepy people out there.
Well, there are creepy people. You need to be careful.
Yeah.
So you want to protect your identity. I think when you sign on to an online dating website, you should have a secondary email address that you use and don't have your name be part of that email address. So if you want to remain anonymous until you've discovered somebody you really want to communicate with, you can remain anonymous that way.
Okay. And what are some other
You don't want to share your home phone number because they can look up your address from that. So if you're going to give a phone number, give a cell phone number. If you do, and I think it's always good if you're communicating with somebody, ask them a question. And then a little while later, ask them the question again and see if they answer with the same answer. It's kind of a way of seeing whether or not they fib.
So it's like 21 questions.
It's like 21 questions.
You can play 21 questions with, yeah. No, because that's good because sometimes you don't know if somebody's just making something up, and that's kind of a good way to avoid what they call a catfish. Can you tell us what a catfish is?
A cat? I've never heard the
You've
phrase.
never heard of a catfish?
No, what's a catfish?
That's
you tell me.
That's when somebody is online dating and they say that there's somebody like they're, you know, looking like Brad Pitt, but they really look like me. That is a catfish. So, so tell us about how to avoid those situations.
Well, I think it's interesting. In some ways, you can't avoid them other than asking somebody to send you a second photograph when you start to get personal. There's an interesting balance between what information you share on the site and what information you share when you start communicating with somebody alone. So kind of confirm what you saw on the site with them by getting photographs. But I had an online date that was not so successful. And he was easily 15 years older than he said and significantly larger.
Oh.
So it can just happen, which is why you don't want to lie when you're online because you don't want to disappoint people when you see them. You want to have them be pleasantly surprised.
Right.
So don't say you're younger than you are. If anything, say you're older than you are. Don't say you're thinner than you are. Say you're heavier. And then they're like, oh, what a surprise.
Yeah, and don't over Photoshop your photos
No,
too,
don't
right?
Photoshop your photos.
You want to have a natural look.
Yes, and you want to have a photograph. Most people don't actually pursue people online who don't have a photograph with their profile.
Okay.
But it's an interesting thing. Don't have a photograph online that you have somewhere else online because you can actually be traced by your photograph. If you're still trying to remain anonymous, take your picture and put it on Google Images and search it, and you'll see if that picture appears somewhere else with your name attached to it. Don't use that picture. Use a picture that you haven't used somewhere else online, then they can't track you down.
Okay, how about for older people who are looking to date? Are there any websites that you recommend personally?
Yes, there are. Now, it's interesting. They use Match.com. They're actually equal in measure on that website, but there's senior friend finders, there's Our Time, so there are websites specifically for older people to visit. But Match.com is just as good for them if they don't want to go to one of those specialized websites.
And do you find a lot of success in these situations?
Yes, I think the success is sort of measured by what you do when you're online. I always say get to the date. You know, when you first meet somebody that you're interested in online, there's some excitement, but if you talk too much to them online, if you send too many emails or text messages before you meet them.
There's no spark when you meet. There's nothing to talk about.
Exactly. So actually get to the date and don't do online dating until you're ready to go on a date because you might actually see somebody that you want to meet, but you're a little nervous and not ready and you lose the chance. So be sure you're actually ready to go.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. For those of you that are ready, make sure you check out Abby's website. She has a lot of good information over there. And